Alright, welcome back to my videos. I hope you like my shirt. Got it on just for you. So this is my code. So I'm supposed to walk you through it. That's just like the plain package. These are all the imports. You can tell that I use all of them because it's not like grayed out. So no waste there. This is the all of the code right here. Excuse me. And basically, so we're gonna start from the top. This overrides something in the application, which gets called in the launch down here. It gets called from the launch. We've talked about that in class like 1,000 times. Hope this is big enough so that you can see it. I set the title to repository dash stack false graph, so that way you know it's mine. This we're just making a new border pane and grid pane. The border pane will hold the grid pane, I think. And then this is setting the horizontal and vertical gaps of the grid pane problems, because I called the grid pane problems. The border pane will hold in the grid pane, yeah. And then this is the top text for the GUI, which explains what it is. I don't know if I needed that or not, but I did it anyway. And I set the wrapping width to 300. That way it fits on the screen. Because if you come down here, you can see I only made the start one 300 by 200. So the 300 makes it so that it wraps around the 300. Then I center this text. And then I add the top text to the border pane. And I give it a width of 3 panels. That's what this number means. This is the 0, 0, so that's like their coordinates. And then I forget what the 1 does. I think that's just something. Then I make the buttons for the problem. So if I ever want to add in new problems, I just do this. I can just new button problem 3. You get what I'm saying. I can just add that in and then add in problems.add button 3. This is the calls. Yeah, I know you're gonna yell at me for having like these comments and stuff, but since I'm new to GUIs, I decided to add them in, just so I understand what everything does. This calls. This is the event. It's pointing to the problem 1 showcase, which is another method that I have for problem 1. And then this is setting the scene and the stage, and then stage.show shows it, obviously. Now, I didn't make these into separate classes. I probably will later down the line, but this was just easier for me to understand for now, starting out. I'll probably change this once we get some more problems in here. There's a couple things I want to change once we get more problems so I can figure the layout of how I... Sorry, I just ate and my throat is dry. Of how I want it. Anyways, I'm only going to show you the code for the problem 1 showcase and the problem 1 code, because the problem 2 showcase and problem 2 code, obviously the code is different, but the showcase is the same. So I have it called showcase because it shows the problem. You'll see it once I run it. Anyway, here's what the first area does. I don't know, it's pretty small. I didn't want it too big or anything. This is just plain text, didn't do anything with it. And then this button is what we're looking at right now. So we create a new vertical box and we give it a width thingy of 10 inside of the problem 1 showcase. So let me go ahead and open that up and we can have it on the side here. Let me make this a little over there. So this opens up. I have it open up to a separate tab just because I kind of like that better, because that way I can just like exit out of this instead of having to click a back button. I know it's not like professional, but I kind of like it for this. So the VBox, the 10 is for the gap right here and right here. Then this is the image view. So we create a new image, then we put it into the image view, which I think is a little counterintuitive, if you will. I feel like I should just be able to do new image view and then put the file in here, but that's not how it works. And then I put it into the vertical box using the getChildren.add function, which also doesn't really make that much sense to me. Why not just do vbox.add? And then that obviously adds it in here. And then this is the part 2. I also separated it so I know which part of the VBox is in what. So in part 2, we make a new heading which is this right here. We changed the font to Times New Roman, make it bold, and make it size 24. That way it's slightly bigger, as you can see. And I didn't want it being this font because I wanted it slightly different. And then I set the underline, which is this right here, to true. And then I add it to the vertical box. And then I as well had to add this part into the part 2, which, so I make a new text, which is the problem text. I could name it like coding text or whatever. And then I set that font to Consolus. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's the that's like the same width for every single thing. And then I set that size to 16 instead of 24, so that way it's a heading instead of all the same. And then I set the wrapping width to 800 because the size of this panel is 800. It didn't get there. It should never get there, but I just added that in just to make sure. And then I do the string file path as problem1.txt, and then I have a try catch statement here, which I know you don't really like, but it makes sense here because it is trying to read in all the problem1 text, and if that file doesn't exist, then it will give you it'll print out all the error stuff in here, which is what the e.print stack is. I also don't like how like they have the e as like the events and stuff. That's kind of weird. And then part 3 is this button right here, which it's called a button run problem1 because it runs this program, and then I add it to it, and then I have this block of text right here, which is the action for it. So when you click it, it takes problem1 code, which is down here. We'll look at that in a second. And then we'll do int answer. So it reads in, because this returns an integer, as you can see. It'll take that into answer, and then I make a new text box, and say the answer is, and then you add in the answer. And then I make the text answer set font to Times New Roman and 16 because we got to make it look nice. And then you add the text answer, and then you run problem 1. That's the button, and then you disable the button so that you can't like keep clicking it. So you click it once, and it shows the answer right here. And you can't click the button again, because if you were to not have this, let me go ahead and exit out of this real quick and then run this again for you. If you were to run this, I could just keep clicking it, so that makes sure that you can't. I'm sure there's tons of other ways to do that, but that's just the way I decided to do it. That's what I found worked. And then obviously we have the same thing for problem 2. It's the same exact stuff. Obviously the picture's a bit bigger and stuff, and then you run the program and it's that. Moving on to the rest of the code, then we set the title to problem 1 right there. This is the name right there, by the way. And then we make a new scene, problem 1 scene, because I'm not changing the scene. I'm making it pop out from that. And I make it an 800 by 600. That way the people in the back of the class can see it. You know what I mean? And then I add it to the problem 1 stage because I'm making a new stage and a new scene. And then I do .show. And then after I do that, so after the stage is made, then you set the image to fit the scene, because I tried doing it before, but since the scene didn't have the 800 by 600, it didn't work, and it just kind of went on forever to the actual size of the image. So this is setting the image up here, this one right here, to the problem 1 stage width and height. And then I set it to preserve the ratio, because if I got rid of this, and then let me close out of this again. If I did this, if I'm correct, I don't know if I did this, yeah, it looks really bad. So you have to add that in there. And then if we go down to the problem 1 showcase, or the problem 1 code, sorry, we can see that this is what the button does, if you remember that. And it's just the solving of it. And problem 2 showcase is the exact same. I'll go ahead and scroll down so you can see all of that. It's the same exact stuff, just with problem 2 instead of problem 1. And then of course you run the program. So that is the code. I'll probably change it to, once we figure out more, obviously like make this work better than doing like this. And I'll probably do something else with the problem 1 and problem 2, like make them centered. And I just don't know how many problems we're going to have, so I didn't know how many rows and columns to make. Like if I should do it problem 1, problem 2, and like have them centered here, or if I should have it like go like this, like a grid. I assume probably like a grid, but I wasn't too sure. And then I'll also probably make this so that problem 1 showcase and problem 1 code are in a different class, which would be out here and here. But that's later down the line. I made this before you showed us the stuff, which I'm pretty sure I did this how Aiden did it, if I'm not mistaken. From what I was like understanding with the E pointing to this, I'm pretty sure that's how he did it. Anyway, that's my code. Hope you enjoyed. I'm not gonna edit this like I did the last one. Yeah, and I'll see you on class on Tuesday.